Hello and welcome to Bible FPL, a Champions League edition. Firstly, thank you so much for the support on the last video. Massively appreciated. And I'm going to try and keep this one short and sweet. I feel like the Champions League content is not quite as sought after as the Premier League stuff. But for those interested, I'm going to fire through my team, a few transfer ideas, fixtures, and the short Bible talk as per usual. Firstly, how did the team do? Well, Vinny Jr. got a couple of assists as captaincy, the transfer in, which was nice. It's just a shame that Mbappe scored four, and we've told ourselves we're not allowed to own Mbappe in this series, because we don't think he'd appreciate being in it. So that was the sort of blow, and I think this Champions League series is becoming a bit harder because of the limitation of the players owning. So this week we have got a justification to improve the team, which I'll get onto in a minute. Outside of Vinny Jr., we got Lookman who got a lovely return, Timber with a goal from a Saka corner. That was a beautiful moment. That was a knee slide in my kitchen moment. Gakpo with a return was nice, especially considering Liverpool stunk up the gaff, and then a Chalobah clean sheet was all really we had to say for ourselves. I think Connor and Allison both didn't play, which was brutal. Hincapie didn't play, which was brutal. Dogi either came off the bench or got booked. It wasn't great. Caicedo with some defcon, was some points nonetheless. In terms of where we are in the world, I think it's not tragic, but it's not world class. 200k, so we're still in the mix. So we're still like in the upper sort of percentile in terms of respectability. But yeah, we definitely need to kick on this game week if we can. In terms of the Bible talk, so if you're new to the series. We put together a team of players on the series who, at least open to the Christian faith in some way or have professed Christian faith. And we use a return time in relation to the player's name to inspire a short Bible talk to basically to bring a little bit more meaning to some of these videos. And the goal we're going to go for is the goal that Lookman scored in the 60th minute. So Lukeman, the book of Luke, is what we're going to go for. And he scored in the 60th minute. So there isn't a Luke chapter 60. So we're going to go for Luke chapter 6 in relation to goal time. And in a nutshell, and this is a passage about how Jesus is saying that he's Lord of the Sabbath. So there was a lot of legalism going on in biblical times with some of the Pharisees, the religious teachers. There was a lot of sort of Old Testament teaching where I think legalism had crept into a point that was just unhealthy. It was like you're kind of following God and you're doing rules and regulations based on what you feel like you ought to be doing, as opposed to what your heart is actually wanting to do. And that isn't actually true, authentic worship that God's asking for. And Jesus comes to say things like, look, if there's a man that's ill and suffering and you can pray for them to be healed, but you're saying, no, 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 we can't pray for people on the Sabbath to be healed. We can't do anything on the Sabbath. We've got to respect it. We've got to keep it holy. We can't do anything whatsoever. Jesus is like, come on, guys, let's have some common sense here. Let's be a blessing, on any day of the week. If we can help someone who's in need, if we can pray for someone who's sick. And actually the point of this talk I wanted to bring is Christianity isn't as legalistic as some people think it is. I think sometimes when you say Christianity, you think religion, and sometimes when you think religion, you think legalism, and you think I have to pray this amount of times a day for this length of time at these certain times a day. I have to do X, Y, and Z. It's all about sort of like obey, 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 and that just doesn't sound very appealing. Actually, the Christian faith is all about a relationship with God, and it's about doing things from your heart in order to worship God from a place of everything He's done for you. You, out of response to that, want to do stuff for Him. The Holy Spirit helps you want to live for Him. Helps you to want to spend time with Him. And actually, when you spend time with God and in His presence, you feel more joyful, more at peace, and it becomes a lifestyle and things that you actually want to do rather than out of obligation of having to do things. And that's just a complete game changer. And if you're listening to this and you're like considering the Christian faith in some way, I want to encourage you, like, yeah, the Christian faith is a non-legalistic thing when done properly. It's okay sometimes to have spiritual disciplines, like, okay, I'm going to read my Bible this morning over breakfast because I know that's going to be good for me. But it's not a case of, okay, if I don't read it for whatever reason that morning, it's not like, oh, God's going to now be mad at me. It's, I'll read it another time. And I know that if I read it another time or I make the time to read it another day, it's going to be good for me, but not because I'm having to do it to earn approval of God. No, Jesus died on the cross to earn approval for us. We then live from that place, not from a place of legalism, but from a place of basically God's loved us. We're saved by grace, and we can now do stuff fueled by the Holy Spirit, and we can spend time with God because we want to, and because our hearts are stirring us to want to, because we know it's going to be good for us, as opposed to you have to do this to earn your way to God. Like most other religions, you have to earn your way to God. In Christianity, God reaches down to save us. He changes our hearts, then want to live for Him, as opposed to have to live to Him, as opposed to having to live for Him. If that makes sense. Do comment if you have any questions about that. I'd love to help you on your journeys of faith. Moving on with the FPL content. In terms of the fixtures this week, when I say FPL content, Champions League fantasy content, you know what I mean. Bayern v Sporting, plum fixture, that is one to target. And there's a player from Bayern we're going to be bringing in this week. I'll talk to you about in a minute and how we've justified them. So I think, look, if you've got three chances this week, double Bayern, triple Bayern, if you're limitless, you want to target the Bayern lads, right? And Harry Kane got a lovely rest the weekend. He came off the bench, scored a hat trick off the bench. So he looks like a great pick and potentially captaincy on the first day. Marseille against Union's quite a nice fixture. I'm just not entirely sure which players I'll be rushing to for Marseille. I think Aubameyang's looking quite good, so you might want to go there. I quite like him as a punt if he's fit. Tottenham at home, Slavia is a nice game. It's just there's not loads of nice Tottenham players at the moment. For us, we're going to have Destiny Doggy at the back, which is at least some coverage, providing yeah, I think he got benched, didn't he, for Spurs at the weekend? So hopefully he's good for a start for us. Barca v Frankfurt's quite nice. I've got Rashford in my team, but Lamine Yamal could be a really nice option if you can get there. Maybe some defender to cover that defence if you want to too. Into Liverpool looks like a tough fixture. Definitely fancy into that Inter and that of what's going on in the Liverpool team at the moment. I think Liverpool conceded like one of the most sort of goals out of the top teams in Europe. So you may want to target an Inter attacker to be honest. I think they just smashed the result of the weekend. So Inter are looking good against that fixture in Liverpool. Ajax v Karabag's nice if there's an Ajax player you're fancying. Villarreal v Copenhagen again if there's a player you're feeling. I think Dortmund v Bodo Glimt's a nice fixture. Like Guirassy up front, maybe some defensive coverage. Definitely ones to look at. Beyond that, Arsenal at Bruges looks very nice. It's a sort of game I can imagine some of the fringe players might get some minutes for Arsenal. So maybe check the Arsenal lineup that they played in the Prem at the weekend. And if there's any like good players in their team that got rested at the weekend, they might be ones you fancy starting for that. Juve at home to Paphos looks really nice. I think a Juve attacker, a Juve defender for some coverage there if you can would be lovely. And then beyond that, the fixtures are looking fairly difficult to call. In terms of our team, then, just quickly, so as it stands, this is how the team would be looking. The transfers that we're thinking of making are the following. So, in a nutshell, if I can click it, I'm already on it. Cody Gakpo is going to go, and this is the Bayern player I was referring to. So, I've mentioned him already, and because we're getting destroyed on this series by not owning top players, like Harry Kane is one that we can justify because he's open enough to Christianity because he celebrated Christmas last year. Merry Christmas, everyone. By the way, the meaning of Christmas, Christmas, it's all about the Christian faith. If you're a Christian out there watching this, let's not miss the real meaning of Christmas this year. I love all the trivial stuff of Christmas, the presents, the food and stuff, but let's not miss the real meaning of Christmas. Jesus coming to be born into the world, to then obviously go on to save the world. So he celebrates Christmas. He clearly isn't entirely atheistic against, Christian celebrations and things. So for that reason, we're slapping him in the team, and he will be our captain for that game against Sporting. So in comes Harry Kane, and to fund it, Vinny Jr. at home to City, tough fixture. I mentioned the Dortmund fixtures being nice, and a player I've had my arm for a while, Lucas Nemecha, strong Christian, definitely justified for the series. Nice price point. He's been getting some returns from them in that midfield, and he does well in terms of the finances at zero point 0.4 mil left in the bank. So I won't lock these in yet. I think I'll wait to make sure team news is all looking good. But all being well, it'll be a Harry Kane captain, I think, for the first day of fixtures, and then for the second day of fixtures, I don't know, maybe a Saka at Bruges if I need him, maybe Haaland v Madrid, something like that I could look at. But I'm hoping Kane does the business against Sporting, and then I can just relax on captaincy for the following day. Remember, as always, make sure you pick an 11 for the first day, full of players that cover all of the first day of fixtures. And then you've got subs to manually bring in for players that play on the second day. So make sure you get your lineup set up in a way where you're not benching players that you can at least have a chance of playing before you need to potentially make some subs. I'll leave it there before the video's too long. Please like and subscribe if you found this helpful, interesting. Do comment if there's anything you'd like to share. Would love to get back to you. But for now, I hope your arrows are green on Champions League fantasy football. I look forward to catching up with you about Premier League fantasy football in the coming days in terms of how I got on. I think was it game week 15, looking ahead to game week 16, all that good stuff. So for now, I'll leave it there. But as always, I look forward to catching you on the next one.